All right. I think we're recording. This looks like it's recording. Are you recording? If you're seeing this, I'm recording. Okay. So what this is we don't typically do like this kind of content at Rooster Teeth, which is someone talking to a camera. I did this wrong. Let me start over again. Hey guys. I nailed that. That's like, you can't teach that. I got a built-in talent for this stuff. We don't normally do vlogging content of any kind on Rooster Teeth, but I thought it would be kind of fun, and the organizers of RTIreland thought it would be fun if we did a Q&A session for everyone who came to the event, because if you were there at the meetup that we had in Ireland last month, where Ashley and I went over there, then you know that about 300 people showed up to that bar and just packed in there. So we didn't get a chance to really do a Q&A session. We like to do that for Rooster Teeth events, where we have like a signing and we take photos and everything like that, and then afterwards we have a big Q&A where people get to answer, get to ask questions, and you know what a Q&A is. It's you guys Q and we A. But we didn't get a chance to do that because Ashley and I literally, from the moment we set foot in the door to the moment we left, we were taking pictures and signing, and we just ran out of time at the event. And everyone was super cool, and it was great to meet everybody. And ultimately, I think that's the most important part of, that kind of an event, is that, we come over to somewhere where we're not normally seen, and we want to get a chance to meet everybody individually. And then if we have a chance to do a group thing afterward, that's great. Like I said, we ran out of time, so we thought we'd do it here. I said, well, why don't we curate some questions through Twitter using the hashtag RTIreland, and then I'll just answer these on video, and then we can put them up, and everyone who was able to come to the event then has the ability to ask a question. So why don't we jump into it, okay? First question, and listen, first thing that's going to happen here is I'm going to say everybody's names, and I'm going to pronounce your names wrong, because that's what happened at the event. People would tell me their names, and I would try to pronounce it as well, and your beautiful Irish names just stumped my American brain and tongue. It happens. All right, first one is from Twitter user I Like Yellow. His name is Andy Hare. I guess that was an easy one to start with. Did you get to do any sightseeing in Dublin City? No, I did not really get to do any sightseeing because I had a weird thing where Gavin and I had a chance. I was going to spend a week there, and then something came up at the end of it. I forget what it was, where I had to shorten my trip and get back right away, and I had to be in Los Angeles. I forget what for. And then right as I was going to leave on the trip to begin with, I found out that I had another opportunity came up where Gavin and I were going to get to record a video with Weird Al Yankovic, and we were like, well, I have to do that. So I had to cut off like the personal sightseeing parts of my trip to Ireland in order to do two different work things. So I was basically there for the event the night before, went to the event the next day, and then the day after that immediately came home. So it was basically a really great 3-day trip to a city and a country that I've never been to that I always wanted to go to. But Ashley and I did learn a lot about the country, and we're definitely going to go back because we had a great time in the short time that we were there. And we know that we don't have to spend all of our time in Dublin, even though it's a lovely city, that Ireland gets really beautiful as you get further and further away from the cities, especially a lot of people who were talking to us about the West Coast and just how beautiful it is out there. So we want to make sure we get out there and get to see some like ancient culture from Ireland as well. Next question comes from John Doe. I don't think that's your name. Your Twitter handle's Y_E1015. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. If you had to pick an original member of Rooster Teeth besides yourself to be stuck on a desert island, with whom, how dare you, with whom, and why? Wow. With those guys, it's probably better to eliminate people, and I think Joel would probably fall out the fastest. It's just like, you're on a deserted island, your main goal is to get off. I don't want to be there with a guy who's like going to hoard all the resources the way he hoards resources in his normal life, like gold and stuff like that. It's just like, seems like a recipe for disaster. Jeff and Gus, they're pretty much the same person. Yeah, I don't know. Neither one of those guys either. You just don't know what you're going to get on a daily basis. They might wake up one day and be like, it's just flagging the boat seems like a lot of problems. You do the fishing, I'm going to be kicking back here. They would somehow pull a beer out of a pocket or something and just have that. So I'd have to go with Hullum. I'd stay with Matt Hullum. That guy can get stuff done. And also, I got to say one thing about Matt. He's good in a stressful situation. When we shot all of Lazer Team, that was a pretty stressful 40 days that we spent on set. Matt did not crack once. He was like a solid rock all the way through that production. In fact, the people that worked on Lazer Team with us, they were saying like they can't believe how cool as a cucumber this director is. So he'd be a good guy to have on a deserted island. So if you have to get on a plane that's going to crash, make sure Matt Holmes with you. You wouldn't want me either, by the way. Nope. I would just delegate work to you to get off the island. All right. This one is from Cillian O'Regan. Cillian with a C? That's right. Twitter handle is @AchieveMaker, but achieve with no E at the end of achieve, if you want to look him up. He's Cillian. All right. Any advice for RTX other than plan your day? Yeah, so I guess this is for advice for people who want to come over to the U.S. and attend RTX in Austin, or maybe go all the way down to Australia and attend it there, which is happening in January of 2016 for the first time. My biggest advice is just listen to the podcast. That's like a primer for everything to do in Austin, because we just talk about our daily lives in the city. But I would say that if you're a Rooster Teeth fan and you're coming to Austin, there's probably a good chance that you want to see certain people, like cast members from your favorite shows. You got to keep in mind, if you're coming here to see a lot of people from Rooster Teeth, there's 44,000 attendees that came to RTX last year, and there's about 25 people that appear on camera on a regular basis here at the company. So 25 to 43,000 is not a very good ratio. So even if every single person met almost 2,000 people, which would be very difficult over the course of 3 days, you still only get to meet some people once. So I would say figure out who you like, who you're there to see, know what your goals are, and then just like work towards that. Like if you want to go to a certain panel, make sure you get in line for that panel. And at RTX, we're always working on new ways to make that more efficient, but I would say stay dedicated to it. And then you'll also get lucky and you'll just run into random people out and about on the floor. Sometimes you run into cool people, and sometimes you run into like a Blaine or something like that. Good luck with that. Okay. Gilly Doodle. What made you come to Ireland after so long? I think I've talked on the podcast a bunch that the two places that I really wanted to go in the world next were the I countries, Ireland and India, which I know are, not similar in any way. But I've always wanted to go to Ireland because my heritage is, on my dad's side, is almost 100% Irish. And so I've always wanted to go to Ireland. Everyone in my family has been, but for some reason I didn't go when my parents and my brother went. They just didn't invite me because that's how they are. But I've always wanted to go, and it was a great chance to go. Even if we went for only the 3 days, I still had an absolute blast, and I cannot wait to go back. So it wasn't a new decision. I've always wanted to go. I just had to find the time to do it. In fact, I reached out to the organizers of RTIreland and said, hey, I would like to come over. So it's just like one of those things we put on the calendar 6 months in advance, and it's just make it happen, And I can't thank them enough for putting the event together and giving me an excuse to come. All right. Robert Farrell. Twitter handle is Robert Metroid. Not quite the same thing. What would you say you're most looking forward to technology-wise that you think will be the next step in gaming and or life? I think 3D printing is probably one of the coolest things. I think even though we have it, we don't know how amazing it is. I don't know how it will really impact gaming. Although my 13-year-old son is 3D printing and constructing a Pip-Boy of his own because he didn't get one of the Pip-Boy editions of Fallout. He was 13, so I didn't ask him if he wanted to get a copy of Fallout, but it turns out it's a game that he wants to play, and he's thought about it since they released it, but in that time, he can no longer get one of the collector's editions, so he's printing it out. So I think technology-wise, it's like the impact of 3D printing, I don't think is something we've seen yet. I don't think we're going to really realize for a long period of time. I think it could affect everything from manufacturing to even agriculture, depending on what they could do with some of those materials, the substrates that they use to build whatever the model is or whatever the object is. So it's like they've already made one now that can, as of the recording of this vlog, one that can print in glass. So that's 3D print glass. Explain that to me. But it's really cool stuff. As far as like very specific, I think that video games, for better or for worse, are driven by advancements in graphics more than anything else. You don't really see too much other advancements that really make people like run out and buy a new game. Like there's not like 7.1 sound isn't really cutting it for a lot of people. But higher resolutions and better graphics seem to be things technologically that drive video games. And I think that the next step in the evolution there is either holographic displays or VR. I'm actually one of the people that's way more excited about augmented reality versus virtual reality, where you take the real world and you augment it with additional artifacts as opposed to like just constructing a whole new environment. I think the applications of AR could be really, really cool. And we've seen some rudimentary stuff with that with the GPS functionality on some of the smartphones. I think mobile gaming has done a lot for that, and I'd love to see more of it. Look at Microsoft Room. That was a pretty cool experiment that came out of the Microsoft Labs. It extends the gaming experience from the Xbox across your entire living room. Pretty freaking cool. All right. This is from Connor Murphy. That's an easy one. All right, Connor Murphy. His name is Connor Murph, 1991. Wow. I hope he graduated in 1991. Born in 1991, he'd be what? He'd still be pretty old. He's like 26. Is my math good there? I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's great. 24. I'm pretty good at math. Sorry, I had a little Slack thing go off here. He wanted to know, do you ever see yourself working anywhere other than Rooster Teeth for the remainder of your career? The remainder of my entertainment career? No, I wouldn't say. I couldn't imagine working anywhere but Rooster Teeth. I mean, it's like, there's been times where I've done things outside of Rooster Teeth, and it's like, my identity is so tied to Rooster Teeth, because the company started in a bedroom in my house in Buda, Texas. So, there's really no way to really separate Burnie from Rooster Teeth at this point. In fact, I think one of the things that led to the longevity of Rooster Teeth, which ultimately I think is the story of Rooster Teeth, is how long we've lasted as a brand online. One of the contributing factors early on was I didn't name the channel like Burnie Burns. A lot of YouTube channels, a lot of channels that have content just like this, they're named after a person. And so after a while, you either really like that person, you continue to like that channel, or you have something like Rooster Teeth, which is a brand, and you can bring in other people and everything. And I think that's really helped us, last more than a decade in an industry where, even a couple of years is a full career for a lot of people. And I've always been really grateful for that. And I love Rooster Teeth. I enjoy coming to work every single day. It's just amazing sometimes when I sit here and think about the stuff I get to do. Like recording a vlog that's going to be seen by people halfway across the world. That's awesome. I can't imagine doing anything else at all. Once I leave entertainment, or once I've kind of filled all my goals there, which will take a long time, obviously Rooster Teeth doesn't have much sway in other areas, whatever that is. I don't know what that passion is, but, life is a journey, and you figure that stuff out as you go. Let me see here. This is from Tony Sullick. Tony Sullick. Tony with an E. Is that Tone? I'm going to say Tony. Tony Sullick. Okay. Burnie, what was the most interesting thing you found out about Ireland, or just in general on your visit? Michael O'Brien. I guess he's saying my Irish name there. I would say the most interesting thing I found out about was, it's actually kind of a funny coincidence, because when I came back here, we had kind of a controversy about it. It was the sport of hurling, which everyone was telling me about when I was there at the event. And somebody actually gave me the ball, one of the balls from hurling. It's a Schlitter, if I'm saying that correctly. I believe that I am. But then when I came back to the U.S., the guys on Sports Ball, Tyler and Joel and Jack, they went off on like some kind of weird hurling rant, which got a lot of traction actually in Irish news, and they appeared on Irish radio to kind of defend their ignorance, I guess you could say, about hurling. And I can listen. I don't blame them. I mean, it's an interesting sport, but it's like something that I was completely unaware of in the U.S. In fact, when people were talking to me about hurling, I'm not intending to insult anybody here. I'm probably just going to insult myself. But I knew so little about it. I thought it was that Scottish sport where they like carry and throw the big telephone poles, like the big like shaved trees. That's what I thought hurling was. And so they were like, no, it's like hockey on land and super violent. So that's what that is. And it was really cool. So I would love to, if there was a game or a match that was taking place when we were in Ireland, but we had to cut our trip short, so we couldn't see it. Another thing I learned from being there from everyone was that we should go visit the Guinness brewery, because that is where the best Guinness in the entire world is. And I can say that the Guinness that I had in Dublin was better than any Guinness I've ever had anywhere else. And that to get the best Guinness, you have to go to the actual source at the gravity gravity tap, something with gravity in it, and it's got Guinness, and the Guinness is good. And I want to go there soon. Oh, this was a common one that I got. This is from Rachel Young 96. Burnie, would you consider visiting Belfast? Belfast. I don't know why I said it like that. On your next trip to Ireland. Game of Thrones is filmed here. Yeah, so we didn't get a chance to go up to Northern Ireland. And I would have liked to. But it's like we had to, make a choice. My family is from Ireland, and so I thought I should go there. On our next trip, we will definitely make some time to go to Northern Ireland. And here's one thing I learned. Obviously, Northern Ireland and Ireland have a long history together, but it's funny to see that the rivalries between very similar cultures exist pretty much everywhere. Like whenever we go to Australia, it's funny, the rivalries between like a Sydney and a Melbourne is like, it's not the subtext. It's the text. Whenever you mention Melbourne in Sydney, they just openly boo you. So it's funny to watch the Northern Ireland attendees and the Ireland attendees talking to each other. And it was like that rivalry being expressed there. Mark Quigley 1 on Twitter, wants to know, is it possible that more staff will come over in the future due to the surprising size and following of RT from Ireland? Yeah, this was a really cool thing about the event. One of the reasons why I have to record the video is that just tons of people showed up. I mean, the line was halfway around a full city block, and it was nuts. So yeah, I think so. It's, everything that we do depends on, just resources and cost and time and everything else. There's a lot of countries where Rooster Teeth is popular. I just realized that Ireland was someplace that we had never been. So while I would say yes, that definitely some RT staff will come back to Ireland at some point in the future, I don't know at what point that will be. I do know that once I went this year, that a number of people came up to me and asked me, hey, so when is the next trip to Ireland and how do I get involved with that? There's a number of people here who would love to go to Ireland. So maybe the organizers of RTIreland and our staff can figure something out. We just hired a new person, Bethany, who helps Barbara and Gus with events. So Bethany and Barbara would be like a good crossover there between community and events to figure something out there. Some questions about Lazer Team. I guess the best one here is Declan Coyle, Plasmo88 on Twitter. Burnie, someone already suggested this, but lots of Dublin cinemas show indie films that could easily be filled with community members. Well, our plans with Lazer Team are to distribute it as widely as we possibly can. We definitely recognize that we have a ton of viewers all over the globe and, a ton of supporters for the Indiegogo campaign. We're doing a premiere in Ireland, or excuse me, we're doing a premiere in Australia. Sorry, I had Ireland on the brain. And then we just recently announced that we're going to be doing some screenings in Canada as well. So it's something that we definitely want to do. And it's a tough thing because people always ask about the distribution of Lazer Team. Movies are an entirely different deal. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to, is that we simply want to have the biggest possible distribution for Lazer Team. We want as many people to see it as possible, and we want to have a whole new audiences discover us and us discover them. But we just have to realize that the people who do film distribution, they kind of work at their own pace. They kind of work in their own world. And if we want to be part of that world, we got to be able to play by the rules up to a point. Once the movie's done, we're going to want to show it to as many people as possible. We've already had some conversations with some really great people about doing distribution. We got really far down the road, with a few different people. So there's not much I can say. You can kind of tell I'm talking around the issues here, but things are progressing very nicely. And we should have information about not only when you can see Lazer Team, but where you can see it as well. And we should have information about that soon. Okay, Burnie. Did you notice any ways, this is from Nick Kenny, it's the Nick Kenny on Twitter, did you notice any ways Ireland differed from the U.S., barring the obviously like currency and the like, and what were they? I was actually kind of fascinated that Ireland was on the euro. I don't know why. I guess because England right next door, or right across the bay, what is that, water channel? Right across that little blue part, that they use the pound. They don't use the euro over there. So I don't know why, but it surprised me that Ireland used the euro. No, but not really. I mean, I found everyone to be very friendly. The bar culture was great. There was definitely like a lot of pubs. But it was a lot of fun. Like people just walking around the street. I didn't have a problem striking up a conversation with anybody. Nobody was a dick. So I guess that's a little different than America. Occasionally run into some dicks. But no, Ireland was a great time. Had a wonderful experience the whole way through. Although I did have a jackass cab driver on the way in. We got in at like 1 in the morning, and then we went to the hotel, and the cab driver told me when we pulled up that she didn't have change when I went to go give her money. That's like, you absolutely, what do you mean you don't have change? What does that mean? And she didn't take credit cards. So she's a little bit of a jackass. That was a really bad first experience in Dublin, but I barely even remember it. So everything was good, and it was aside from being gorgeous and, cold, which I like, it was not that different from the experience that I have in the U.S. A lot of fun. Burnie, this is from, what's a silly name? His Twitter name is Ultima Sock Puppet. I guess everything else was taken that day. Burnie, if you ever had the chance, flights paid, etc., would you film something in Ireland? And if so, what would you film? There's actually a project that I'm working on right now that I'm in the process of scripting, which is a long-form series, first one I've worked on since Red vs. Blue. It's a narrative series. That would work very well to shoot parts of that in Ireland, certainly. Texas is not very green. It's not. Ireland is very green, so it'd be really cool to shoot, in some of those areas that are just, there's parts of Ireland that just look like nowhere else in the world. I mean, the closest thing I can equate Ireland to, from what I've seen of it, is like parts of New Zealand, central New Zealand, like where they filmed The Hobbit and The Shire in, I believe that's in Matamata, is where they filmed that in New Zealand. So I would absolutely love to shoot in Ireland. I wonder, Ireland has a reputation for being very tax friendly for businesses, and I'm curious if that applies to movies as well, because where American movies choose to shoot for locations is very heavily based in the tax incentives, because it can really add millions of dollars to a film budget. And we'd like to be working on stuff that big very soon. Burnie, this comes from Daniel Henning. Burnie, would you ever consider writing an autobiography, and what would you name it? I never thought about what possibly would name it. Something about Thanks Internet or something like that. Or Hey Guys, the story of Burnie Burns. I've thought about it. I mean, I've written down a lot of stories over the years. I don't really know if what kind of appetite there is for an autobiography. And it's like I said earlier, is like the identity with Rooster Teeth and me is like so intertwined that I feel like if I wrote an autobiography, that I feel like it would almost be like an incomplete look at Rooster Teeth as a whole, because I recognize that's why a lot of people would be buying that, is because of that. So I don't know. I've thought about it, but I've no serious plans. We have a Red vs. Blue book that's coming out. It's been a lot of fun to work on that. It's been a lot of work. Making a book is a lot of work. I even half closed my eyes when I said that, because I just wanted to fall asleep. It's long hours. And Eddie Rivas has spent a lot of time on that book. A lot of people have. Eddie Rivas has done a lot of the heavy lifting and putting that stuff together, and he's done a really good job with it. And I think if you're a Red vs. Blue fan especially, I think you're going to like that book in particular. All right. Jordan Drennan, what surprised you most about the RTIreland community? Just how many people there were. I mean, I wasn't surprised at how friendly everyone was, even though everyone was super friendly. And we run into that a lot. We seem to have some of the nicest fans or people that watch the shows in the world. So always very grateful for that. And it was a wonderful experience. And everyone was very open, very appreciative that I came over there, and then also wanted to return, some kind of hospitality and, tell me where to go next and things like that. So everybody was really cool. It was an absolute blast. Let me see here. This is from, here, we'll try this. This is from Steve McD, and his Twitter handle is B for Blart, and he says, try and pronounce some of these Irish names. A-I-N-E, Anne, C-A-O-I-M-H-E, Camey, pretty sure I nailed that one. D-I-A-R-M-U-I-D. Dear Mud. Dear Mud, you're so dirty. All right, that's as good as I'm gonna get. I work my way down the list and butcher everybody's name. But I mean, I was just impressed by the number of different ways you guys spell Owen. That was actually pretty impressive to me. Someone wants to. A couple people want to know when the pictures from the event are going to be up. I believe they're already up online now. Some of these questions were submitted a couple of weeks ago, so you can find the pictures from the event online and just go to the RTIreland Facebook page. I think RTIreland event page. Sure, look at RTIreland. You'll find their homepage pretty quickly, wherever their landing spot is in the world. All right, we can wrap up some of these. Let's take like 2 more questions here, and then we can do it. I see a lot of pictures in here from people posting. It's very pretty. CG wants to know RTX Ireland, maybe? Hint, hint. Well, let's see how RTX Australia goes. And we would love to have RTX events in all different parts of the world. And we've expanded straight from Austin to overseas, so it might make sense if we did some other event, some other part of the world, rather than just expanding inside of the U.S. Or inside of Australia. It might make sense to make it available to more people in the world. And the last question comes from Will Swanee, Will BITW. He wants to know, Burnie, what advice would you give to somebody who is interested in working in the gaming and entertainment industry? It's a question I get a lot because, you know, this is a really quickly growing industry, and it's one I think that inspires a lot of people. It certainly inspires me. I would say that if you're interested in getting involved in either entertainment or gaming specifically, you live in a time in which you can do that. The tools exist for you to work on your own projects and get them in front of an audience and start building an audience right away. And it's unlike any other point in history for that. You know, when I make videos with my kids for game kids, we'll make videos that sometimes 25,000 people will watch. And if you watch Rooster Teeth videos, 25,000 is not actually a high number, you know, on average for a Rooster Teeth video. But when I just think about that, for a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old to be able to make something that is seen by 25,000 people, that's really incredible. I mean, that's like, I wouldn't have thought, you know, when I was even leaving high school that I would meet 25 or interact with 25,000 people in my entire life. And there's an opportunity to do that for, you know, a whole generation of people, and an opportunity to do that every day. And more. You know, some people like PewDiePie are, you know, 5 million, 6 million people that he interacts with on a regular basis. And it's really an incredible time. And I can say that in my own experience of having worked online for 13 years, is there's so many talented people that consume content and make content. I've met so many of them, got a chance to work with a ton of them. One thing I can tell you is that if you have an idea or you have an inspiration, I wouldn't sit around waiting for an opportunity to come up. I would make sure that I went out and started developing that opportunity myself, because I can almost guarantee you that if you have a great idea for something, that not only has someone else thought of it, someone else is already working on it. And so you're racing against the clock of people that you might not even know exists. So I would get going as soon as possible. And you can't worry too much about your first thing not being a super hit or being perfect, because any time that you spend, especially if you're a young person, any time that you spend doing something, even if it doesn't turn out to be something that you can even release, that's still very valuable time that you spent. It's time that you spent honing your craft. And it can be very hard to talk to someone who's, say, 17 years old and say, well, get going, and maybe like in 3 years, you know, something might happen. It seems like a very long time for someone who's 17. But by the time you're, you know, 3 years out, you're 20 at that point. And if you can get a career going at 20, boy, you're really ahead of the ballgame. If you're even younger than 17, if you're, you know, 15 or 16, I mean, really, time is your biggest weapon, and you can use it to really build skills and do things that no one else is doing. So take some time, make some things, learn a craft. That would be my best piece of advice for getting going. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. I hope you like this. I've never really done like this kind of thing before. But maybe if this is something that people like, we can do this on a more regular basis to talk about, like, you know, not just like answer questions, but also tell you guys like what's going on at Rooster Teeth, you know, what we've been up to. Yeah, it might be kind of fun to do that. Never done anything like that before. So thanks to everyone who came out to the RTIreland event. Thank you to the organizers of RTIreland for putting the event on. Sorry that we didn't get a chance to do this Q&A there, but I'm really grateful for the opportunity to have done it here. All right, take it easy, everybody.